You are listening to Fighting Together. We are fighting to make a positive impact in our God-hungry communities.
Today I'm very excited because I've got some news. I've got some news about that crowdfunding campaign we did. I've got some news about the equipment, but I've also got my brother, my younger brother with me in the studio.
Hi, hello everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, so
that sounded awkward.
That sounded awkward, right?
Yeah. Bad first impression.
It's like you're there and it's like the spotlight is on you and next thing is like, the words won't come out.
And your thing not being seen would make it easier.
Yeah, it doesn't,
right? It makes it worse.
Yeah. Anyway, so I've got Takunda in the studio and I'm very excited for this episode. I hope you're ready.
These days, the internet is filled with toxic content, politics, depressing news, and statistics. If you want a bit of refuge from all that chaos, then visit www.dailypodcast.show, where we give you hope, hymns, and something different.
Over the past couple of days, a week or so, I've been trying to work out ways to make this podcast better as it goes and evolves, I guess. Yeah, one of the things you're going to notice is that we are making an effort to try and get the production quality up. But let's talk about the equipment. Obviously, that's something you are excited, hopefully keen to hear on. We have finally purchased the equipment. The equipment is kind of stuck. It's stuck a bit because it's coming from the United States of America. And you might have heard that they are going through some bizarre weather, snow, coldness stuff that's happening there. And because of that, the shipment hasn't yet happened. But the purchase has been made. So I'm very excited. Right, so after this, we shall now talk. It will be me and Takunda just talking about some of our experiences when we were growing up, especially around video games. You know, back in the day when we played 8-bit Nintendo games, you know, on those TV consoles that you kind of plug onto your TV and you'd have the cartridge and you put it in there. If you want to hear more on that, stick around.
Are you tired of consuming the same old content? Bored by the lack of variety? Stick around. Maybe this podcast will help.
Right, welcome back. You're listening to Tafadzwa. This is Fighting Together. Like I've said before, I've got Takunda with me here. Now, Takunda.
Yeah, how's it?
Yeah, it's good. We don't have to shake hands, do we?
Do it.
No.
No.
Okay.
Social distance. I'm sure you were socially distanced.
Yeah. Anyway, I hope Takunda will be able to talk loudly because I talk loudly. So at the end of this, hopefully the volumes will be mastered properly.
I shall try my best to match it.
Anyway, so cartridges, games. One of the things I always remember was Super Mario.
The good old days. Trust me, this was when gaming was fun before the word toxic came into play. Trust me, I miss the good old days. Just jamming the Super Mario. Oh, yeah. Then I was watching preschool.
Yeah, well, I actually have memories from back when you were at Waterland. Yeah, preschool, and with Super Mario.
And I don't have those memories.
Yeah, one particular thing I remember was we would play Super Mario because at this stage now we had two options: either to use the main TV in the main living room, or to use an old black and white TV that had now been relocated to our bedroom at that time. But now the challenge with this was that there was many rules. One of the rules was obviously don't plug your device onto the main TV.
And this was
because
emphasized when the device was bought. Like when the video game was bought, it was like you shall not plug it into the main TV.
Yeah, and the main TV was the one which had color, right? Because it was the main TV. But then we had an old TV that had been abandoned because it was an old black and white TV. We weren't even sure if it worked, but turns out it worked. Yeah, but now it meant while playing the game, you had no color picture. So Mario was just this dark gray figure.
And speaking of which, it actually reminds me of an article I read.
Yeah.
Apparently, if you're exposed to black and white as a kid, essentially you dream in black and white. So I think it's now explaining my dreams.
Yeah, a lot of people have arguments around that whole dream concept because people have a tendency of going, no, I don't dream in black and white, I dream in color. Well, the thing is, if you dream of yourself wearing your school uniform, even if you dream it in black and white,
you know
you already know the color.
You know the color.
So people make the argument, say, no, the trees were green and the grass was green and everything was colorful.
And who wants to admit I'm dreaming in black and white?
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know. That's something that I think people should comment on in the comments there below. And I don't know.
What do you dream in? High definition or grayscale?
High definition. Yeah, and it's so unfortunate that Soldier Love passed away after saying how high definition. That just came to mind.
Yeah.
And so there's so much that I think creatively we could have brought into the industry, and it's unfortunate that people will then go back to remembering or playing his music after he's passed away. And yeah, anyway, with the games that we grew up playing, with all that, what do you think of the collection? Which ones were your top games? I know personally, Excite Bike was an underrated game. It's not a top game. It's not a top game for me, but I feel like it gave us more entertainment than we give it credit for.
Do you still remember the Looney Tunes game?
I wasn't even going to touch on the Looney Tunes game.
Still remember
That
oh no, it's not that.
that was cream like the cream. It was a top game. And what made it so fascinating was we were so used to playing these generic games.
Exactly.
And just so that our listeners get an awareness of this, we had no shops where you can go to and buy these cartridges. We're talking about 8-bit games, TV game consoles. So we didn't have shops that you can walk into and get a collection of cartridges from. You had to buy your cartridges second hand from someone else who bought it from someone else who bought it from someone else.
So by the time you get it, it's no longer in the cases. Just if you do remember what we're talking about, those things are cases and chips.
Yeah.
We had a few that actually no longer had the case.
Yeah, and most people don't know that.
Exactly.
Most
You
people
just
don't
be
realize
told
that
this is Super Mario, but you
just
no
have the chip. Yeah, you don't have the case. You just have that processing chip, and then you take it and you plug it. Most people didn't realize. Yeah, most people didn't realize that you can play your cartridges without the case, because they thought there's something in the casing. But actually, if you break open the case and you take out the chip, that chip alone was enough for you to
think of it. Those chips look like the RAM chips we have these days.
Yeah, they look
the exact
like RAM.
concept we have with the RAM and the slot.
Yeah,
that was the video game.
Hopefully, someone who knows RAM, knows these cartridges is going to. That's a lot of things you need to know. Yeah, and we'll be right back with the golden oldies after this.
You are listening to Fighting Together. Sit back, relax, and enjoy our daily episodes.
Shino leva kuta
Before the break, I tried to get Takunda to talk about some of his top games. I mentioned how Excitebike is kind of underrated. Not to say it's my top game, but let's talk about those top games. I know Super Mario was a well-made game,
exactly.
but the thing that killed it was the game that came with every console. So at the end of the day, it just felt like
down your throat.
Yeah,
you
it's
had
like,
to play it.
Everyone has played it, and like we said before the break, these cartridges that we had here in Zimbabwe, here in Chitumbisa, we were not buying them second hand. We were buying them from someone who bought them, from someone who bought them, from someone who bought them. And none of our cartridges were ever bought from a shop.
Exactly.
So you would go there and you're standing at a street corner. And this was the exciting thing about this era.
That was actually fun, though.
Yeah, it was fun because you had your BMX bicycles and then you'd ride over to the meeting place and then you'd be like, did you bring the product? The guy's like, yeah, I've got it. And then he pulls out this pink cartridge that no longer has any of its stickers on it.
You
and
had
goes
no
like,
guarantee
yeah,
what it is.
yeah,
You'd
yeah.
just be told.
Yeah, it'll be like, what's on here? And the guy will be like, this one's got Mario. And like, I don't want Mario. It's like, no, this is a Mario that's different from the Mario.
Oh, yeah, that's when we had the raccoon fly.
Yeah, but that one was now 16-bit.
16-bit.
Yeah, because we had some 16-bit games with the hope that we shall get 16-bit console. But we never got one. Yeah, so we would go with those cartridges if we visit someone.
Then
oh,
trade.
but there was an 8-bit one.
Yeah, there was an 8-bit one, the raccoon flies.
Yeah, there was an
But
8-bit.
we never
It was
came
Mario
with
3.
We never came with it home. I think we
Yeah.
saw someone playing it.
Yeah.
And they were like, no,
No.
this is the holy
Yeah.
grail of my collection.
Yeah, because that's the thing. That's another thing. When you visited a friend, you'd also take your cartridges with you so that you can swap those cartridges. It's not a permanent swap. It's a, I will give you this cartridge if you give me this cartridge. But then therein it comes the value of the games, because you had cartridges that have one game on it, and you have cartridges that have 999,999,999,999 games on them.
And then only 5 games would be sensible.
Yeah,
and the rest would be Tetris.
Yeah, because you've got the 5 games there, and then they're changed over. Sometimes this one is like rebranded and so on, and it wasn't actual value for money. So when you're making the swap, all those factors came into play, and someone would say, "I'm giving you this cartridge, and what are you giving me?" And you had to pull together, you and your friends or whoever, so that you can accumulate enough value to make the swap happen. And it's not a permanent swap. You could swap maybe just for the weekend. After that, the guy will be at your gate first thing in the morning
saying, "Where's my game?
Where's my game?"
Speaking of which, there was one that there were 2 that drove us crazy. There was Tank,
Yeah.
and then there was Ice Climber.
Yeah. Tank and
Those were classics. Though.
Okay. Yeah. We're about to take a porridge break very soon. So make it quick.
There was Tank and there was Ice Climber. Tank was the one of the first games, I think, that allowed you to build your own.
Oh, yes, yes.
That was
yeah.
revolutionary.
Yeah,
You
just
could
seeing that.
design your own, like, okay,
Your own stage, your own map, and just experiencing that
was
on
mind-blowing.
your television with a TV console at that time. And which reminds me how far games have come now. I was talking about you being in preschool before, like when we started the podcast.
Yeah.
And at that time, when you were there, I remember particularly that there was a time when we were trying to get to the end of Super Mario. We would play it and play it and play it, and there was no way to save.
Exactly.
There was, if you were playing it and the power goes, you had no save format or somewhere to come back.
Back
It
to
meant
level
you have
one.
lost it. If you are playing and then someone bumps the console and then it kind of pulls itself out or whatever, that's it. You have lost
Starting over
all
again.
progress. And that was hardcore gaming. And now I remember that while we were gaming like that, you sometimes would be told, you need to go and pick up Takunda at the preschool. And now
In the middle.
we're in the middle of a game. We have gotten far further than we have ever gotten before.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of lives. You're about to get to the castle. Because Mario was one of those hardcore ones where you had to
exactly.
keep going. You're about to get to the next castle. And you think, I remember one particular incident, which probably happened several times. Me and our friend from next door, Batsi, we kind of then decided, no. We have to go pick up Takunda. And to pick him up, it will probably take us like 45 minutes or an hour. And we can't be away from the TV for an hour. Because there was another rule. Don't leave your things on.
Exactly.
Switch them off when you're leaving the house. But we can't switch it off because
We're in the middle.
So we essentially switched off the TV. It was one of those old TVs. We closed the lids because it had, you have to go search it up. You used to get TVs that came with legs, wooden legs. And it had,
into the cupboard.
yeah,
also.
they were like a cardboard. And they came with doors that you'd open. And then they would fold onto the side. This is like retro, super retro TV. And with such a TV, we switched off the TV, closed the TV, and we pushed gently the TV game console underneath the TV. We covered the light so that you can't see that the light is on, and hoped no one was going to switch it off in the 45 minutes to an hour that it's going to take for us to go to Takunda, pick him up from preschool,
and then come back.
And when we got there, his first thing was like, it's almost like we're breaking him out of prison. Because his first thing was like, what were you playing and how far have you gone? and we were like, we're playing Super Mario, we've gotten this far, so and so. So we have to hit the road before it switched off. And even Takunda was
We're
in
like,
on
let's
it.
go.
And he'll be like, let's
At least
go.
he didn't have to explain to him.
So we didn't need to explain much to him. And he'll be like, let's go, hit the road, and we would go. Right. Oh,
Good old days.
Yeah. So we're going to talk a bit more on this. We're just experimenting for today to see how this podcast will be with me and Takunda both on it.
It was a great one.
Yeah, it was a good one.
And the trip
So-
down memory lane.
Yeah.
Which half of the memories I can remember.
Yeah, so thank you so much for listening. You are listening to Fighting Together. We haven't exhausted this topic, but I guess this episode has been as long as it needs to be. Stick around. We still got one more hymn that's coming after this.
Get your Bible ready. The next segment has now begun.
I hope you have enjoyed the episode so far. And as we now wrap things up, I've got my Bible in hand. Yeah. I think today was a different episode because we're trying to do the best we can with the equipment we've got. So the sound production might not be where it's meant to be, or there are certain things that might need to be fixed. But that's the thing. I've done these episodes. I think this is probably almost to the 20th episode. And I've done all these episodes using what I currently have in preparation for the equipment that I mentioned before, the equipment I talked about at the beginning of the episode, which is essentially the equipment we crowdfunded for. Yeah, that equipment, like I said, has been paid for, but because of the weather delays, there's a lot of bad weather in America currently. Because of that, it hasn't yet been shipped, but I'll keep you posted, I'll keep you updated, and I'm very excited because the purchasing of that equipment was made possible by you. Now, I was with my brother. You heard us talk. And one thing I also remember from our childhood was that whenever we wanted to go somewhere, or rather whenever I wanted to go somewhere, my brother would then also want to come along. And this was so even at a time when he was still young and he couldn't keep up with the walking we used to do. Because I used to walk a lot. Him and I also used to walk a lot. We used to ride our bicycles a lot. But before we had the bicycles, before he was old enough to walk far, I had to kind of dodge him because I knew that maybe I'm going to be walking for the next 2-3 hours. And there was no way he would be able to keep up. And if he gets tired while we're 2 hours away from home, there was no way he was, it just wasn't going to work. So there were times when I would say to him, okay, yeah, you can come along, but go put on your shoes. And I would say this to him when we were at the gate, and then next thing you know, I'm out the gate, he goes to get his shoes. By the time he comes back, I've already hit the road. Yeah, and in doing so, it worked several times, but as he got older, it then lost the faith in that. Yeah, he started keeping his shoes at the gate. Yeah, and now it no longer worked because they were right there and there was no way for me to send him back. Good times. Anyway, like I said, it's time for me to wrap up this episode, and I wanted to read from the Bible. I'm going to read from the Shona Bible, but feel free to check out the same verse in the English Bible. I'll read from Luke chapter 18, verse 15. In the Shona Bible, Ruka 18, Dimadik ya 15. Vanhu vakauyawo navacheche kuna Jesu kuti avanyengeterere. Vadzidzi vakati vachiona izvi, vakavatsiura, asi Jesu akadanira vana kwaari achiti, regai vana vaduku vauye kwandiri, uye musavadzivisa, nokuti umambo hwaMwari ndohwavakadai. Zvirokwazvo ndinoti kwamuri, ani nani asingagamuchire umambo hwaMwari somwana muduku haangatopindi mahuri. And now obviously he's talking about let the children come to me, for the kingdom of God is for such people, and whoever cannot receive it, like these young ones, and I think you need to read it in English so that you don't get me butchering it and paraphrasing it incorrectly. And from the Shona reading I've had, it's something that's key for us to have a childlike approach where our faith is just overwhelming. Without faith it is impossible to please God. And as a child, you would have faith when your parent tells you, okay, stop crying, I have to go to work. You cannot cry every time I go to work. You need to stop crying. When I come back from work, I'm bringing you some candy, I'm bringing you some sweets. Kids fall for that. Unfortunately, their misplaced faith gets abused by grown-ups. Grown-ups like Tafadzwa, who sends his little brother back to get the shoes every now and again. Every time the brother goes, because the brother has faith that I'm going to be waiting for him, and every time he comes back, I'm no longer there. And that's the thing. Unfortunately, it's a system that gets abused by grown-ups in children. But now, when it comes to God, He's not there to abuse our faith the same way we abuse the faith that children have in us. He's not there for that. When He says He will do something, He will do it, and we just have to have faith. I think I've touched a bit on that. Hopefully I'll keep bringing you new segments. Yeah, because I think you notice that as the podcast, I need to highlight this one more time, as the podcast goes further and further into production, certain things will be reshaped, certain things will be revisited, and made better and better and better. I'm structuring segments, categories, and new podcast shows. But all those structures will come into place when the website is fully running and when the equipment gets here. Thank you so much for listening. Now, I think I've covered everything. Time for a hymn, and then we wrap up today's episode. The voices that you're going to be hearing are all voices from the Church of Christ here in Zimbabwe. Unfortunately, I'm no longer too sure which group, which congregation sang this, but it's a Church of Christ congregation here in Zimbabwe. The voices are from at least one congregation. Maybe it's multiple congregations who came together and formed a group. I'm not too sure. But over time, when we start using our own equipment, instead of taking the things that's already there, we're going to have records, and we're going to be able to introduce the songs properly because we would have recorded them and we would know who's singing what. This has been Fighting Together. My name is Tafadzwa. Cheers.
Since I've started listening to this podcast, I've always wanted to say this. I know this is where he's gonna put in the bell. So this is the end of this round.